Just because you drill a well today and you got water doesn't mean you'll have water in 5 years. Depends on where you're drilling it. So I'm not trying to put a scare tactic out there and put fear in anybody. You're right. You got all these creeks, you got Lake Michigan, but there's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is Lake Michigan is not connected to that deep bed aquifer. So our Great Lakes are not connected to that aquifer. We do know that much.
Hi, Joe Bush.
Well, hi, Phil. How are you doing this morning?
I'm
Or actually
doing
this
great.
afternoon now.
Yeah, it's afternoon already. Yeah. I'm excited to have you on. You touch a lot of areas in your work that affect real estate in so many different ways. So thanks for taking the time. But before we get there, who's Joe Bush?
Joe Bush used to be a called drain commissioner. And then in 2012, through state statute, the Board of Commissioners back in 2012 changed the name from drain commissioner to water resources. And you can do that via the state drain code, the state law. And so Joe Bush, the water resources, got elected in 2013. That was my first year getting elected. We've been elected ever since. So we run every 4 years. We're a countywide elected official. Our department is responsible for about 1,000 county. I think we're over now, 1,000 county drains. When I started back in 2013, after I got elected, we had 850 drains, and just the growth in Ottawa County, we're over 1,000 now. So they keep adding up, and I think we're probably approaching 1,100 if we wanted to count now. And I suspect that number to grow. So we oversee about 700 ponds, again, over 1,000 county drains. Not every drain is a county drain, but a county drain has an authority, a legal authority. They have a beginning and an end. Like a power line, right? You got a beginning of a power line and an end somewhere. County drain is a legal body that starts and ends, that the county has a jurisdiction. That's why we're elected to go and oversee these water courses, streams, drains, creeks. People call them a variety of names, but basically it's a water course. And again, not every water course is a county drain or has been established under the legal process. Drain commissioners have been around since the early 1900s, late 1800s in some areas of the state, but we've been around a long time as far as our elected positions. And then, we oversee our soil erosion program here. So I'm sure anybody that watches the podcast has gotten a soil erosion permit, especially if you're a developer or if you're adding onto your house or commercial, industrial, no matter what, you have to get a soil erosion permit if you move dirt. Typically in Ottawa County or in any county, that's state law. We oversee our development reviews. So we have staff here that reviews developments for townships, the planning commission, and to make sure they're being developed like pretty much subdivisions or individual property owners as well. If they want to dig a pond and outlets into a county drain, as an example. And then we oversee I'm thinking a drawing a blank at the moment, the MS4 program, which is a multiple storm system. So the state, we're under the MS4, and that is because we're turning into an urbanized area because of the growth. And so we have staff that oversees that program. And then what else? Again, as the soil erosion development, we also oversee all the drain inspections, and we have inspectors on staff that go and look at our drains on a daily basis and see how we can fix those. And then we have a lot of partners in the community, but that's pretty much what I do or oversee as the Water Resources Commissioner. And there's multiple people that call on a variety of issues, and we try to provide the best customer service we can. We try to get water quality as a priority in our county. Water quality is important to every single one of us, and water quantity is an issue that's up and coming issue, right? We're hearing about wells going dry, and we can talk about that later in the podcast. So,
Yeah. So you mentioned a whole lot of things there, and that raises some questions for me. So you sound very busy. One person can't do that. So how many are on your staff?
Yeah, we only had 10. We could probably have 20 or 30, but I try to be not big government. People always talk about old government and they're overstaffed. We're definitely not overstaffed. We could always handle more, but we're very strategic on how we lead our department. But we have 10 people, and you would think, wow, that's a lot of work for 10 people. And we do it very strategically. Like I said, we have a plan. We have meetings all the time where we try to be very organized, where we utilize the people we have to the best of our ability to make sure that we don't overlap. We don't overdo anything. Everybody is directed for a task and a job and an outcome. And we make sure we follow up on those, if not weekly, monthly. Where we at? Where we been? How are we doing? How are we doing on customer service? Are we utilizing everybody to their full potential without overworking people? Because we don't like turnover. It costs a lot of money for turnover. And I try to surround myself with great people, and I just try to lead. That's where my job comes in, and try to be an expert in all these different variety of all these folks on my staff, and try to give people like yourself and our constituents and our people who are utilizing our needs to give them the best service and the most friendly service that you can come up with. And that's what we do.
So if I'm in a township, I live in a township, or I live in a city, Grand Haven, Holland, whatever it may be within Ottawa County, how do you coordinate with the different municipalities in permitting, resources, those kinds of things?
They actually reach out to us quite a bit, because one thing they don't want to do in their master planning. So I reach out to all the municipalities and we look over their master plan. We look over the areas where they have flooding. We look over those areas of where they don't have a lot of water. Maybe their wells are going dry. Say Blendon Township, Jamestown Township. You look at that, and when you look at Jamestown, it's a lot different than Blendon. Or if you go to City of Holland, we have built relationships. One thing that I have done as a Water Resources Commissioner that I think is very important is the key to success is communication. And I try to communicate with my partners. I call them, they're my partners, because we can't do it alone. And you don't win a Super Bowl with just one player or one coach. It takes a team. And the way I communicate is I outreach to them and go, hey, what are your concerns? What's happening? Or they do vice versa. They'll call me and go, hey, I got a new development. What are your thoughts? What are your ideas? We don't want people to flood. We don't want people to lose property values. I'm a big property rights guy. So I want to make sure people who buy property or want to build on a piece of property, if they actually can utilize it, benefit from it. We all pay taxes on our property. So we want to make sure it's utilized the best way possible.
Sure.
So we just connect with those folks all the time and making sure that we're not missing something. But I always try to tell them, you got to communicate with me and make sure communication is key.
Yeah. So let's talk about well water a second. And you mentioned one particular township not have as much water as what it once did. In those particular townships, are you involved then with other entities within the government to bring municipal water to them? Or is that something different?
Yeah. So in their master planning, and I'm talking to folks right now, working with the county administrator, working with the BPWs, working with the other townships. Typically when you, like Blendon, they're talking to Georgetown, hey, can you run water out to these areas? Of course, it's an enormous cost. Who's going to pay for it? What does that cost a property owner to run water to them or to hook it up if they could get there? What is it? It's a large cost. When you look at that full dynamics, you got a future plan and you got to figure out, is it viable for one home, or do you have 50 homes in that area where you can offset that cost? Because one property owner really can't afford to run that line. If you have 50 homes, maybe there's an alternative and you can work with those folks. But there's really two main lines that run through Ottawa County, and the city of Wyoming and the city of Grand Rapids. And their plants are basically over on the lakeshore. They're water treatment plants. And then they go right through our county and people tie into them or hook up to them. Distribution lines, Holland Township, Zeeland Township. Some of them have BPWs, like Holland BPW, Zeeland BPW. And then some of the townships utilize those BPW lines and then service their customers. So we are always in talks on how do we, like Blendon Township in Allendale, certain parts of Allendale Township is on municipal, but a lot of them are on wells that are having issues. And you just try to come up with strategic planning. And that's what we've always been trying to do. But the issue of the well water is starting to be a bigger issue than as we move forward. And as more people are putting, we call them straws in the ground, sucking up from that, aquifers actually depleting. And there's been so many wells in Blendon lowered last year because we were in a drought. We've been working with drillers. We have a groundwater board that is utilized of about, I think there's 17 people on the groundwater board. I'm on there. There's a lot of local municipalities that serve on that, strategic planning, our Department of Strategic Planning, I should say, Paul Sachs and his staff, commissioners, farmers. There's a mixed group. There's a realtor, developer on there, environmental person on there. We have a lot of good people on that board and that board has no authority. They have no legal body. They can't make ordinances. They can't pass anything. It's only a recommendation board to other communities, other township boards on, hey, best practices. What do you do about this? How do you fix that when it comes to water? Native grasses are always being talked about.
How can we, so this is what I hear and I think myself, so it's not like this is your pay grade, not mine for sure. We live on Lake Michigan. We have so many rivers going through, we're the Great Lakes state. We have so many rivers and streams and everything going through the county. How in the world can we be low on water?
That's what everybody asks. But see, we have there's two different kind of aquifers, right? You got the shallow aquifer and then you got the deep bedrock. And the deep bedrock is where most of the wells are at, like that 150, 120, basically down to about 200, depending on where you're at in the county. But that aquifer is the one that doesn't get recharged. There's no way to get to it because there's like clay layers between the shallow and the deep aquifer. So there's no way. Everybody wants the good water. The good water is down in the deeper bedrock. And sometimes you can get good water in shallow. I won't dispute that. If you're down 50 feet, 80 feet, that one doesn't have a bigger issue as much as the deep aquifer. That's where a lot of people go down to. Sometimes you get wells, and you know this, water quality is just not very good. Even at 70 feet or 80 feet, they're putting in water softeners. It smells. There's sulfur in it. There could be nitrates. There could be, who knows what's in that shallow aquifer. Different parts of the county have their challenges with even the shallow aquifer for water quality. They might have quantity. Quality isn't there. Typically, when you go down deep, in the deep bedrock, you can get good both. You get good drinking water, but the water quality is also good where you don't need it's not as hard. You don't need a water softener or anything else, chemicals to get the bad chemicals out, right? To make it really clean or drinkable.
If homeowners or commercial industrial users are getting into the 150, 200 feet length of well into that deep bedrock, then there has to be concern that will start to dry up as well.
It could be. It could be a concern. I think, what I tell people when they're like, hey, I want to build on that lot, I always tell them to call their township. Or because like in Allendale, you have to get a piece of paper that says, hey, just so you're aware of this, you're going to put water, or you're going to put a well in that deep bedrock, you might have an issue. It's an awareness education piece that Allendale Township does that. Some of them are starting to do it that, hey, if you buy this house or you buy this lot and you're going to put a new well in and you need permits, just be aware you could be fine, but you could run into issues in a year or two if that aquifer starts having issues. Just because you drill a well today and you got water doesn't mean you'll have water in 5 years. Depends on where you're drilling it. So I'm not trying to put a scare tactic out there and put fear in anybody. No. You're right. You got all these creeks, you got Lake Michigan, but there's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is Lake Michigan is not connected to that deep bed aquifer. So our Great Lakes are not connected to that aquifer. We do know that much. When the Great Lakes comes up, it will create high water tables in certain parts of the county where it could be connected, but it's not connected. Lake Michigan is not really connected to the aquifer in Blendon Township. But if you're in Park Township and that water table comes up, we've seen this just back in 2021, when that water came up and we had a lot of rain and the Lake Michigan came up, guess what? We had water sitting everywhere and the channels. And then the further you go in Park Township, the further you went inland, there was people who had water in basements and sump pumps were running all the time because that water table came up. And it does fluctuate, but that might be connected to Lake Michigan because it's closer. But you get further inward towards Blendon, Georgetown, those areas, they didn't see the impact like they did everywhere else because the water table didn't come up. So everybody thinks that water table is connected to the Great Lakes, and it's really not.
So Ottawa County, again, you're going to know these statistics a lot better than I, but I believe it's the fastest growing county in Michigan. in terms of population. How do you manage the growth with water resources?
So again, it goes back to master planning with the townships and balance it, right? It's all about balance. And one thing that when we keep working with the townships and the local units of the powers of be with water, where do you see and we're working on that right now. The Board of Commissioners this year will be looking at strategic planning for next year and the following years on water. I think water is probably one of the most important critical infrastructure needs we need. Roads are always important. We never have enough money, or roads are always terrible in Michigan, it seems. But water, to me, is the most precious non-renewable resource we have. People say oil, but you can't drink oil. Water is one of those things that's very dear to my heart. So when you have growth like we're having, it's just, when you have growth, you have to look at how many wells could be in that certain area, and can the municipalities, and is there cooperation with different partners, how to get that water ran out to a subdivision that could be proposed in the future, because you're going to have growth. And Ottawa County has been you're right. Since I got elected in 2012 and started off this January 1 of 2013, I can say the trend, and when I forecast every year, I'm forecasting now for 2026, 2027, development's not going to go down. It's been keep increasing or staying. We're going to see average 100 new developments a year that we review. And it's been that same number. 2020, we were down during COVID a little bit. But when you look at overall from 2013 to now, Ottawa County's been the fastest growing county per population. We just keep growing. Everybody wants to live in Ottawa County because our parks, our water quality is pretty good here for the most part. Our drainage, the land, housing, people love our subdivisions. People just love to be in Ottawa County. It's near the lakeshore, and we have a lot of things to offer to people that other counties don't. So they want to come and live here because it is the place where people want to grow and raise a family in Ottawa County. Jobs is a big one. We always seem to produce jobs here, and good paying jobs. Yeah. So when you have growth, I think you look at the business community, you look at the community foundations, you look at the chambers, and I'm partners with all these, and go, when it comes to water, how can we be a help? How can we help people understand the importance of water usage? Again, we need to make sure we have water for the future. And even though we got Lake Michigan just not far away. Hopefully that helps answer the question, because there's not a silver bullet to say, hey, this is going to help growth, but you got a master plan, and townships really got to look at where do you want the new housing and what kind of housing. And I know affordable housing is a big discussion. That'll be on the Board of Commissioners project too. Where do we go with these tiny homes that are talking about, right? Yeah. Where do we put those? Is there going to be water where we need those? What's the landscaping look like? Irrigation for lawns, and what about septic systems, and where are you going to put those? And is it going to be hooked to municipal sanitary? When you have growth, there's a cost to it, and some people don't like paying for the cost of growth, but it's all about the infrastructure. You got to create the infrastructure to have the growth, to accept it.
Yeah. So speaking of Ottawa County and home values, right now we're seeing an average home price of about $386,000. No, interest rates are high 5s to 6, which has come down significantly. So the market is robust, and homes in Ottawa County are on the market for about 28 days on average. So as we move into the spring, we're going to see probably some pricing go up, and the days on market even shrink even more because the inventory is just not there. More development from a real estate standpoint is a great thing, but that affordability continues to be an issue for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you're working with all those different partners on how that, in terms of tiny houses or subdivisions, whatever it may be, because we have a lot of people that want to come into our community, but so far haven't been able to.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
one of the big things that people ask questions about in subdivisions or whatever, even industrial, commercial, hey, how come there's a big hole in this subdivision at the end of the street with no water in it, but there's pipes going into it? I get this question almost daily for 13 years now. Why are they there? We do have development standards, And the reason we have to have retention or detention ponds, that's what they are. You got to have all your stormwater go to a location so homes don't flood. But we design it, at least since I've been here, back in the, I want to say from the 70s to about the about 1990s, 95, 96. They weren't everywhere because it really wasn't part of the standard and it's hard to go back. And when you see flooded homes, sometimes it's because of that. The standards were different, but today's standards are you got to prepare for a 100-year storm, which seems to happen more than every once in every 100 years. But when you have a detention or retention pond, you got to have stormwater go somewhere like we're seeing today or yesterday with the snow melt and some rain this morning. And there was a lot of ponding water everywhere. But if you don't, so the reason that we have those is because all these drains, most of the drains, I'm going to say all of them at some point, and I have all the records on file of our county drains, that where 70% of our drains were dug in the late 1800s, like 1870, and they were dug until about 1940, 1950. And they were designed and dug at a capacity. Whatever that capacity was at that time, that's what they can handle. Since then, we have built roads, we have culverts, and all these homes being built. The drains cannot handle a direct discharge from a road and all these runoffs from yards and backyards. And
Sure.
those drains don't have the capacity to handle all that. So all that storage has to go somewhere. Otherwise, the culverts, every time somebody drives over a road culvert or road piping in the road, it's only designed for a 10-year storm for the road commission. Culverts are different, but storm sewers in roads, because I worked at the road commission for 12 years, those are designed for a 10-year storm, or ponds are designed for a 100-year storm now. So we don't blow out roads, blow out culverts, or the drains don't erode and blow out the drains where people lose all their land because the erosion gets so bad. And we do have erosion, natural, that's just part of water course and in general. You just get erosion, Mother Nature. You will get erosion. We try to fix them, but that's just Mother Nature. But that's why we have detention, retention ponds. And
Sure.
developers are like, I don't want that there. And I'm like, I understand that, but we got to protect the people who are buying the properties, who are building the homes in the subdivision. And they're like, it's too big. But I'm like, it's all mathematical. It's all engineered. And we run the calculations of how much water runs off a road, whether it's curb and gutter or just a pan or just a regular road, ditches, roofs. Those are all calculations to design that detention, retention pond. And we're coming up with some new technology that might be dry basin ponds that maybe in the future won't be as big. We're getting creative on how to recharge that water, maybe down 100 feet with a dry basin. That's a whole nother discussion we can have sometime. But those are things I'm looking at, new technology that they're doing out west or in Florida or in Texas. And I'm like, why are we doing that in Michigan? And our friends at Eagle, I don't know if you're familiar with Eagle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Our friends at Eagle have their rules and regulations, and sometimes they don't like these things that I'm proposing, but I think we need to be creative about our water resources and how to recharge even in these dry basins that go, just because it's a bowl there and it does infiltrate in the ground, that's only helping the shallow aquifer. If I can get it deeper and get down in the deep bed aquifer, I want to try to figure out a way how to put clean water back in the ground. It's got to be clean. I get it, but we want to make sure it's clean and creative. Anyway, I can get on a tangent on retention.
No, you're fine.
Before we continue, I'd like to give a big shout out to our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible. Lighthouse Title, Independent Bank, Josh DeVries Mortgage Lender, Cooper Insurance, Jose Morales, in partnership with Fremont Mutual Insurance. Thank you for your support. Check out their info in the description below. Let's dive back in.
So along those lines, that new subdivision or that existing subdivision, and we're, of course, we have our home that's built and we're landscaping it and we're putting sprinkling in and everything else, and we're using water. What advice would you give to homeowners, landowners about their water usage?
Well, I think when you look at landscaping, you want to maybe plant some grasses that don't need as much water. There's all kinds of new native grasses that, when I say native, people think of native grasses as plants, not really a grass, but there's different grasses that take less water and maybe less mowing, takes less time to maintain. You don't get some of the, I call it dandelions or the invasives in there, to weeds to take over. And then put your rain, when you do your irrigation, look at it and see what kind of rain sensors you can put on there, right? So when it's raining, one of my pet peeves when it comes to water, and I know, it just happens, people don't realize it or forgot about it, or we're all busy, is when it's pouring rain and then you go by and see people sprinkling, the yard sprinklers going on all day long, and it's flooding out the neighbor, because the neighbor calls me and says, hey, I didn't have as much water, it rained, but my neighbors, and they're in clay. So if you're in clay soils, it's going to be different than if you're in sand soils, which our soils in Ottawa County have got to be the most challenging in the state, because you can drive anywhere between 5 miles apart and have different soils. And whatever who your landscaper is, make sure that you do it in an effective way where you don't irrigate the road. I see that all the time, where people irrigating sidewalks, roads, driveways, and it's not even hitting the grass. And then if it's raining, have a sensor on there. It'll save your water bill, or your well. If you're on municipal water, it'll save your water bill. Somehow, from one way or another, you're paying for it. Either your well is running and your pump's running to get water up there, or your municipal, you're pulling in water from the water line out in the street. So
what should someone do with they have rain gutters and the downspouts and so on? What should they do?
a lot of people will take their rain gutters and put them into a storm sewer, and that's okay. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but sometimes they do pop-ups and then they pop up in the back. It all depends on how your landscaping is. And if you can grade it in, right? If you can grade it in, get some under drain in there. I know people who put in perforated tile and run it through their backyard, and they have nice green grass sometimes, depending on their soil types. Doesn't work everywhere. Perforated tile, run it off your gutters and bury it, and just let the water filter in through that. And you got to do it zigzag. You just can't run it to 50 feet, because if it rains hard, there's a large amount of water coming off a roof in a downpour. You got to have it where it's calculated out how much tile you can use, and use perforated, or some people do those pop-up, and the pop-ups work pretty well. It's good for water quality because the grass will filter any of the contaminants coming off your roof. And also it's good for the drain system. Before it reaches there, it slows it down, right? You use your grass as a buffer. You always need a buffer. So those are a couple ideas. There's other ones too, that if people ever want to call us, email us, they're more than happy. We have staff that can help them out as well, or myself. I'm in the field probably 70% of the time. I'm meeting property owners, farmers, business owners on detention, retention ponds, gutters. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of water that comes off roofs. People don't realize it until if you were to go out there and and watch how much water comes out your gutters. Yeah. The other big thing is, for flooding wise, make sure they check their sump pumps, and their sump pump has a good outlet somewhere that's not flooding their neighbor. We get those calls daily. Hey, my neighbor's sump pump runs all the time. They're in clay, the ground, that higher water table's up. Their sump pump runs 24/7 and they're flooding out my yard in the back. So put your discharge pipe where it would make sense. A lot of times they're connected to a storm sewer, either in the backyard or the ran to the front yard. And their sump pump, if people don't check them once in a while, it'd be a good idea to pour water in there and figure out, number one, is the pump going to come on when it fills up? So you're prepared for a flood or a water issue. Sometimes it's not even a flood. It's your dishwasher or your water heater rusts out, and it blows out and all the water goes somewhere. At least if it goes in your sump pump pit, at least you can pump the water out somewhere outside. Right. So it's always good to keep your sump pump up to speed. And where is it? And some people don't even realize where it goes. So sometimes it's good to figure out, where does it go? Because it gets plugged up. I know mice sometimes will go in there, and if it hasn't been used in quite some time, they love to make their own nest in there and plug it up. And the squirrels. Yeah. Also, what's the other one? Woodchucks. They love They love to find those. And tree roots. Those are your enemies for sump pumps. So it's always good. And gutters, make sure that they're not really just running down along your basement foundation, and because water will find a crack. Water likes the least point of resistance, and if it finds a crack, it's going to go in your basement and you'll have water in there. So it's always good to get your water away from your foundation, but not on your neighbors, but yet keep it on your property. And we're happy to look into that if somebody calls and says, hey, I don't know where to go with my water, give me some options. We're happy to come out or get a good landscaper, and then they'll figure it out.
Sure. So if someone wanted to learn more, can they find information on the county website, Joe? Or
Oh, yeah.
where would they go? Okay.
Yep. Go to miottawa.org and look under departments. I'm W, so it's the last one, water resources. Click on that. The emails are on there and the phone number's on there. They can call us. And I'm in the field a lot, and I love this job, and I love meeting new people. If they got a problem, the last thing I want is a flooded basement, people having no water, or water quality is terrible and it's not drinkable. So those are things that's where I fit in. And if I can help people, that's why I'm elected. And I'm paid. My staff and I are paid by taxpayers, and we try to provide the best customer service with what we got.
So that is, as we kind of wrap up here, Joe, that's the one question I wanted to ask you. What in the heck led you to be the Water Resource Commissioner? I know it was an election, but where did this idea pop into your head that this is what I want to do?
So when I worked at the road commission, I surveyed, I did all the construction staking. I did a lot of field inspections. I did the drainage over there for the roads. And I've always had a passion about water, number one. Number two, I've always been fascinated on infrastructure. And when you put water and infrastructure together, I was always told I should run for the drain commissioner seat, that it would fit me on what my passion was. And that's what got me into it. Back in 2011, people were like, you need to run for drain commissioner. You need to run for drain commissioner. And I thought, tell me more about it, because I don't mind. I was on the Olive Township board. I was a trustee there at the time. I was the trustee on Olive for, I think it was 8 years. And I was involved in the planning commission. So that's where the ordinances, zoning, township level, I got very knowledgeable in, and I was always learning. I'm always learning. Even today, I still learn. And then, so I took that kind of education and what I've learned from that. And then I used my degree from college in public administration. And then I took what I learned at the road commission, being there for 12 years. The engineering department, I learned so many things from professional engineers. I'm not a PE, but I worked under 5 of them at the road commission. So I learned about design, what works, what doesn't work, water flows, calculations, again, how to build a subdivision. What does that look like? The complications, Eagle, permitting, again, working with townships. So this township relationship started way back in when I was at the Olive Township trustee. I got to know those other board members and other municipalities. And then it just grew from there. When I was building roads all over the county, you get to know those same people. And then when I was running for election, you surround yourself with all these great people and support. And this is how I got to be where I'm at today. I'm truly blessed to have this job. I don't look at it as just a countywide elected. I look at it as people's future. And I'm only going to be here so long, right? So sooner or later, there's no term limits. I'm running again in 28. And Lord willing, I'm running, but Lord willing, I will get elected again. And if that's where he needs me to be, I feel it would be a true blessing to be in this position.
So a couple final questions for you, Joe. You have 3 ladies in your life. What are they up to?
My wife will maybe be making an announcement at some point. She's been a school teacher at Quincy Elementary, 4th grade for many years. Ever since Quincy started, she came from Woodbridge. So she'll probably have some news in the near future on her future. And then my 2 daughters, I got a senior at Grand Valley. She'll be graduating in May 2nd. And then I got a sophomore at Go Green.
Yes.
Sparty.
Go away.
Yeah. So she's at Michigan State studying computers and computer science. And then my oldest is kind of studying social work. So they have great career paths, I think. And we're excited. I'm blessed to have, them in my life. And they've been supporting me through all this. I work a lot of long hours, and they put up with my long days. Sometimes I come home grumpy because I'm like, it's like a lot. Because I want to fix problems. I'm a problem solver. And sometimes they're big problems. And like this groundwater, like these wells going dry, how to work with these municipalities. I just want to make sure that water is available and people can enjoy it way beyond my years. I want it for my kids and grandkids, and I want it for every resident. It's very critical to our daily lives is water.
Our future. Yeah. Awesome. So one more time, tell me your website and a phone number that people can reach you.
Yep. So the website is miottawa.org. Look under departments and go to Water Resources Commissioner, and then everything is pretty easy to navigate through there. And the phone number is on there. It's 994-4527 or 26. You can, there's a couple numbers on there on the website, but 994-4526, 27, I think 25. They're all go around in the department. You'll get a hold of somebody. And one thing that we strive in my department is, hey, we're paid by the taxpayer, and our number one job is to give the best customer service to people and provide them with, hopefully, that we can get them answers. If we don't have the answers, we will reach out to people who can give you the answers. So we don't know everything, but we know a lot of people and a lot of organizations, and we're happy to assist. That's what we do if we don't know it.
Resources are important. Absolutely.
That's why it's called Ottawa County Water Resources.
There you go. Absolutely.
Still better than Drain Commissioner, right?
Exactly.
Drain Commissioner.
Yeah. Joe, I appreciate your time today and all the information that you provided to Keys to the Community podcast. And it was good to see you again, and hope to see you soon. Say hi to the family, and appreciate your passion for what you're doing at Ottawa County.
Thank you. And for anybody that listens to this too, our website does have a GIS map of, I want to say, majority of the drains are on there. We're always updating it and getting our GIS maps updated all the time. Sometimes we look in the files from 1900 and it's, we better add that because it wasn't in there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And we do find those. I want to say probably once a month, we'll find a piece of a drain that might not be in there that is ours for whatever reason. It just hasn't been worked on in 100 years. And that's ours. But if somebody is buying a house or looking at a house, check out our map, our GIS map on our website, and go, hey, I want to buy this property, put your parcel number in, and a drain should come by. Or if sometimes they want to know, I get a lot of calls, Phil, on, hey, has this flooded before over in this area? Tell me about water issues. We're happy to help people walk through that too. I know people say on the disclaimer that it's been flooded or had flooding issues, and that's fine. But I usually tell people maybe that house didn't flood, but maybe one down the street did, and they don't know about it.
Right.
So we're happy to help people that way too. If we could give information the best to our ability. But that map of drains nearby, in the street, in the backyard, there could be backyard drains. That's our responsibility. Have people check out that map if they're buying or selling, just so they're surrounding themselves with some knowledge of what infrastructure is nearby.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Joe, well, you have a good rest of your day. And again, thank you for all you're doing for the county.
Absolutely. Thank you, Phil, and thanks for the friendship. And again, reach out anytime if you or a buyer or seller has any questions. You know how to get hold of me.
We will do that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Keys to the Community. Make sure you subscribe and stay connected to what's happening across West Michigan. And if real estate is on your mind, reach out. I'd love to help.